Okay. Well, thank you all very much for joining us. As David said, we're very excited to have our first shelter webinar series up and running. So the series is part of a campaign to support the work that all the shelters and rescues are doing around the country. And we've got some great speakers lined up, so we really hope that you'll find them interesting and useful. As part of this campaign, I'm hoping that you'll all have heard of our pilot program for the Shelter Register Aotearoa. Now, this pilot program is an initiative to establish a national shelter database to quantify the number of animals that are coming in and out of the shelters and rescues around the country. We want to be able to quantify these numbers so that we have some solid data to present to central government and an MPI to help establish the fact that this is a big welfare problem that we need help with, and maybe implement some policies and create some legislation that will help create a better outcome for these animals. And then we've got some other benefits that we hope will come out of this. So as well as looking out for the welfare of the animals, obviously we need to consider the people that are involved in these shelters as well, because we know that it's a massive burden and everyone's just overrun with animals and everyone's overwhelmed. And so we want to be able to provide support for the people that work at the coalface as well. So that is a very brief overview of the pilot program. If you're really keen to help make change in this area, it would be amazing if you could sign up to help take part in this program if you're a shelter or a rescue. And you can do that by either emailing me at the address there, or you can go to our website, the Shelter Register Aotearoa page on our CANS website, and there's a link there that you can join up with too. And any questions I can fill you in. So without any further ado, I'd just like to welcome Carolyn. So many of you will have probably heard of Carolyn or know Carolyn. She is the founder of Helping You Help Animals Charitable Trust, HUHA, and her inspired problem solving and drive has led a team of HUHA staff and volunteers to save and shelter thousands of animals, to find safe outcomes and for hundreds of animals during HUHA's emergency team's disaster response in times such as the Christchurch earthquakes, Nelson fires, Australian bushfires, and continued national flooding emergencies. Carolyn is well regarded and works effectively with government agencies to facilitate change. She currently heads HUHA's 5 no-kill animal sanctuaries just north of Wellington, as well as leading a compassionate veterinary team. She runs a business that also formulates natural products. She's a vet nurse of 36 years, has trained animals for film and television, studied herbalism, appeared as an animal advisor on TV1's Good Morning, and has won several awards. Carolyn and her team are currently building a multi-million-dollar animal welfare and evacuation hub on the 157-acre property on the Haywards Hill in Wellington, a safe place where animals and communities can heal and grow together. Carolyn's mission is to stop the volume and culture of disposable animals in New Zealand. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Carolyn, who's going to talk to us about struggles and growth and challenges of animal shelter management. You're on mute.
Unmute. Yeah. Let me just share my screen. Oh, hang on, what do? I do that. Oh, there we go. Yay. Hey, thank you so much, firstly, to Companion Animals New Zealand and David and Sarah and their team for having me. This is my first webinar, so bear with me, but there's just so much to talk about and say. So I've sort of popped some slides together, but I really want to be able to speak to your questions. So definitely, if you have questions, don't just sit and listen to the slides, pop them up there, and I'm more than happy to answer them. I think everybody will be wanting to get something different out of this. So I just want to make sure that everybody gets what they need. Now, I was going to say that I think the struggles of sheltering is a really delicate subject. Things out there are getting really bad. We've been at it for a long time, and it's not getting any better. It's definitely getting worse. And there are more of us doing it now. Over the last sort of COVID period, I've had 4 other shelter professionals, volunteers, reach out to say they weren't just considering ending their career in the shelter, they were also considering ending their life. So that's how incredibly impactful the volume of animals coming through is, and that sort of sense of desperation that everybody's feeling, and we're all feeling it, and we're all feeling it together. What I'm noticing, though, is we're all coming together a lot more now too. So, you know, when we started HUHA, we used to just barge along on our own and think, we've got this, we're okay, but we don't have it, and we need everybody to jump in and do this together. But we all need to be safe. We all need to consider ourselves, and we all need to just protect ourselves a little bit. So I'm going to tell you our journey, and hopefully some of it will inspire you, but I also want everyone to give themselves permission not to save the world. I think if, as I say, we all do it together, it'll go a lot easier. So HUHA was born from need, which is really sad if you think about it. I mean, wouldn't it be great if we didn't exist? In fact, life would be so much easier. But when I did start HUHA, it definitely was a clear need. I didn't want to step on any toes. I was working at the SPCA. They were doing cats and dogs. So what I did is I started to kind of look for where I could sort of slot in gently without causing a fuss. So I started with farm animals, and I started with wildlife as well. And we called ourselves Pakuratahi Animal Sanctuary. I was with Jim, and we had quite a nice little life. It was quite low key. We brought in at-risk youth, and we worked with them so they could emotionally benefit from working with the animals. So we'd rescue the animals and then rescue the kids. And I was quite the romantic lifestyle, I guess. And the wildlife were just a cherry on top. They'd come in damaged, and we spent a lot of time caring for them, giving them what they needed. And it was good. It was a good life, but people started noticing what we were doing, and then the animals started coming, and they came and they came. So we're talking so many animals in high volume. There were, you know, the farm animals, chickens, but we also started realizing there were other animals in the country in trouble. And one thing that we found out very quickly about ourselves is that we have a really unique approach to problem solving. So just as an example, I wanted to share Charlie with you. So Charlie was one of the monkeys in the Whirling Brothers circus, and he is incredibly special to us. He's passed away now, but it was quite an interesting thing. Jim and I would be driving along to go pick up the veggies for all the pigs and the animals back at the sanctuary, and we'd watch all these protesters sort of like standing outside the circus, and they were holding pickets, and they were like, the circus must close down or get rid of their animals. They can't go on like this. It's cruel. It's not okay. Animals shouldn't be an exhibit, which we completely agree with. But we were watching, and every time we drove past, we noticed, you know, there was this little angry man behind them refusing to move, and it was a real clash. So I kind of said to Jim one day, well, what if we just went in around the back and just started chatting with him, became friends with him? Maybe that might help. And that's what we did. We basically went and cut a whole lot of willow trees, just branches, not the whole tree, and we loaded up our ute, and we drove into the back entrance of the circus, and we said, hey, we've got some feed here for your elephant. We're happy to collect it for you every day. And they were wrapped. It was a job they didn't have to do. So every day we'd turn up with willow for the elephant, and we'd start chatting with them. Anyway, it turned out pretty quickly, we found out that he actually was ready to retire, but he wasn't going to bloody well retire where those picketers were telling him to. So it was, I think, although the intention to stop him was there, it was actually spurring them on and motivating him. So the more time we spent with him, he gained trust. And next thing you know, we've got 3 monkeys turning up on our doorstep in a caravan. We're having to make a quick makeshift temporary housing facility, get a zoo license. Jim over summer had to build a monkey enclosure. And we've got these little guys in our care. And it was devastating because no monkey should be in captivity. It was just awful. But we were able to take the chains off their necks. We were able to give them a fruju. We were able to give them an amazing life. We still have 4 monkeys in our care. And Carol, she's had her thumbs chopped off from being in the circus so that she couldn't grab things. So anyway, I guess probably my point is, sometimes when you're looking at something that's really confronting, there can be several ways to approach it. And sometimes the lesser approach can actually achieve more. And we've found that all the way through HUHA. We don't just go textbook. We actually stop and think, you know what, can we do this another way? And I think that's been one of our huge successes. The other thing, though, to think about from this story is that this was happening in our lifetime not so long ago. And the law actually hasn't closed the door on animals being allowed to, exotics being allowed in circuses. So although there are no more in New Zealand, we took the last of them, the door is still open. So that's something we should all be working on together to close. Right, what's next? So what I wanted to say is, it's very romantic having an animal sanctuary. I mean, who wouldn't want this? It just seems like such an idealistic lifestyle. But the point is, behind the scenes, it's bloody hard work. So Jim and I, we actually haven't had a holiday. We've been going 21 years. We haven't had a holiday for 21 years. I wasn't paid for the first 18 years, which is fine. That's totally our choice. But every Sunday we would have to go to the markets and get all the food and scraps and veggies to feed the pigs and all the animals. And it really does take a toll. I don't think we were lucky probably that the kids were in a week on, week off share with, they were Jim's kids, week on, week off, because they got to have a normal life with Jim's wife, but they didn't get to have a normal life with us. Although they did get monkeys crawling through the window and sitting on their bed. So I guess swings and roundabout. But anyway, we had to make a choice. We had to make a choice to either just stay as we were, or with these animals that just needed to come in and clearly needed help and there was nowhere else to go, we needed to work out how to preserve ourselves through that and to grow. And so growing really was the answer, because it meant we could bring in a team. We could actually start moving away from our home. So today, still, we're at the same sanctuary with the same monkeys in our backyard. We have the same, the next generation of pigs coming through, and sheep and goats and cows. We specialize in blind animals. There's blind cows, blind sheep, blind pigs, blind everything here. I'm blind dog. But I think the thing is, what we can do now is, those animals aren't on exhibit. They've got a real private place here, but we're able to grow the front door of HUHA somewhere else. We've taken it away from home, which has been really important to us. So now HUHA, the name, Pakurite Animal Sanctuary was great, but we didn't want to be an address, as I was saying. So HUHA was something I thought of in the shower one day, and I was just sort of thinking, we just need people to help themselves, and that's where helping you help animals came into it. So we're New Zealand's leading no-kill animal rescue. The term no-kill is quite a bold one. It's not one I entirely agree with, to be fair. No, we don't kill for convenience. We don't kill because we can't be bothered or because we haven't tried. We generally don't kill, to be fair. Well, no, we never would just kill. We would hold them tight and tell them we love them and let them go. But we don't do it often at all. I think in 20 years, we've euthanized 19 dogs, just one last year. And I think when I worked at another organization, it would have been 19 in a month, or 19 even in a week on a bad week. So I think how we've got around that is every animal, we look for a solution. It's that problem solving again, and we get to know them and truly understand what they need. Some of them, though, have terminal illnesses, and you just can't, we put them into palliative care, but there is a point where you do need to hold them tight and let them go. So to me, no kill is not about not letting them go, not valuing euthanasia. I think euthanasia is a gift, and it's a very special thing to have in your toolkit, but we wouldn't do it for human reasons, just because it's inconvenient to have that animal, or we don't have the money for it, or we don't have the space for it. We will always find a solution. Don't know if I explained that well, but anyway, we probably found our voice when we deployed to the Christchurch earthquakes. So I was on the board of the Wellington SPCA. I was one of the trustees, and everyone was rocked with what was happening in Christchurch. I personally felt like there's a community that needs help, let's go. And I remember being told, you know what, they've got this, you don't need to go, just you're fine. But I just didn't feel right not going. So Jim and I took my SPCA hat off, I chucked my HUHA hat on. Jim and I got in that same truck you saw the veggies in, set it up with crates, and down we went. This is where I really learnt, and I think this is a really important lesson. I learned the value of being strategic. So we didn't just go down as disaster tourists saying, right, we're here, what can we look at or do, or we want to feel good about ourselves, so where's our hero moment? We went down there thinking, you know what, there are little charities down here, like there was Turtle Rescue, there was a lady who's rescuing roosters, there was Dog Watch, and then some smaller cat charities, and then the Mad Cat lady as well. And so we connected with them before we left. We also sent our network of volunteers that we had, who were great. We sent them out to do home visits. So we did a call out in Wellington saying, we're going to come back with some animals, please, you can foster. So they did a little bit of a network around to check out the foster homes and tick them off, work out what animals would suit them. But the big thing we did is we didn't bring back animals that were displaced. We brought back animals that were already homeless. So we took the animals that already were in a shelter and already didn't have a home, so we could bring them up, and then we could settle them down, rehome them, they could live happily ever after. Meanwhile, the displaced animals could go into those spare cages in Christchurch. So we just freed up an awful lot of space, and I felt that was a really smart way to do it, and I was really proud of that. So Christchurch was big. We went back 3 times, and we probably pulled out, I think it was around 160 animals altogether. And funnily enough, most of the fosterers just fell in love, stepped up and adopted. So not many animals actually, once we got them into foster home, had to move on. So there is no I in team. And for me, my wingman is Claire. She hates her photo going up on things, so I put a blurry one of her in the back there. But this is her at the Nelson fires. Sorry, this is Walter. Here he is. So anyway, I guess when Claire rang me one day, she'd heard of HUHA and what we were doing, and said, hey, you know what, I want to be involved. She just had the right sort of gumption, so I grabbed her, and she and I set about trying to find somewhere to perhaps try and build a shelter, something bigger. And that's when we came across Ashford Park, which is really not fit for purpose at all. And we've been there now 12 or 13 years, and it's absolutely not fit for purpose. But what we learned from that was a whole lot of stuff that was so incredibly important. For instance, you can see like there's about 30 horse stables here, and it's kind of sexy and cool from the point of view that it's real estate you can move straight into. But the animals, when you get them in there, they can't go outside to the toilet. They're stuck in there. So for the last 13 years, we've been so labor intensive, having to clip the dogs. Sorry, I've got 12 puppies next to me and 4 piglets behind me, so it might get noisy at some point. Anyway, I was going to say, yeah, so you have to clip the dogs on their leads and then take them out to the toilet. So there's 30 stables. You would think that would mean we happily have 30 dogs, but it never happens in rescue work like that. So we've actually got usually an average of 50 to 60 dogs in our care, and they're all constantly being rotated all day. So they have time outside, they have time playing, they have time walking, and then obviously all the toileting and everything in between. And on a rainy day, it's just horrible. So this place is not ideal. And it's falling to pieces. The plumbing's gone. We're in a portaloo now. But you know what? It served its purpose and it taught us a lot. This is actually when we first moved in, but now it's got sort of like pens all out the front and portacoms and stuff as well. What we learned through that shelter, and one of the gifts it gave us, is when sometimes there is value in going into a shelter rather than foster care. It's not all the time. Obviously, if an animal's come from a home, you don't want to downgrade them to a shelter. No animal should be in a shelter. So when an animal's come from a home, we hate downgrading them. We always want to, give them what they're used to, or sorry, it's a cat, or we want to upgrade them. So in this situation, though, we went into a laboratory. Jim's just sneaking Snowflake away. In this situation, we went into a laboratory. It was a horrible vivisection situation, and we pulled out, I think it was 38 beagles in the end. Took a long time. The lady was absolutely the most evil person I've ever met in my entire life. So there was a lot of argy-bargying around and being delicate with her. I think there were 6 episodes on Campbell Live of us going in and out, and we found dead rotting puppies in the backyard. The whole thing was just absolutely just awful. But these dogs that came out were institutionalized. They were rocking in a corner. They were shut down. The Campbell Life story actually started because these animals she was trying to sell them, and they weren't fit for purpose, because they'd go into homes and just continue to rock in a corner and be shut down. And so they were being euthanized. And so it was a story around it was a story around the Consumer Act, I think. So anyway, we went in and rescued these beagles, and we pulled them out and we brought them into our shelter. So they didn't go into foster homes, they went into the shelter. What we learned from that is that animals that are institutionalized, if you take them from that institution and put them into a home with love and noise and interaction and engagement, it can be a lot for them. It can completely tip them. So to put them into a shelter, they're going from like to like in a way, but the shelter is also giving them new stimulus. So you're starting to get that engagement with people. You're starting to get, those kind touches, that extra nice food, the joy of going outside and feeling sorry. Why do cats always do that? Anyway, that joy of going outside for the first time, the joy of learning how to be on a harness or a lead, and having a cuddle, playing with a child. But the reason it worked is because we kept them as a pack. They weren't separated from each other. Their worlds didn't flip straight away. They were able to engage together and continue to play. And as they learned these little things that they kind of worked out were quite nice, they did it together. And so by the time they'd all become quite bold and brassy, they understood that people were cool. They understood what love was and kindness was. They were then ready to go into a home. But if we'd done that too soon, I think that we would have had a little bit of a disaster. So it's a bold thing to say that a shelter is better than foster care, but in that scenario, it truly was an incredibly important stepping stone. So we started getting quite a bit of traction on Facebook. We're now at 81.5 thousand followers. We were back then probably at maybe 20, 30,000. These stories kind of were growing our following, I think. But anyway, our Facebook page actually started in 2009. A teenager set it up for me. We had brought in 24, they were called Community Max Youth. They were youth who couldn't find jobs. They were, for whatever reason, deemed as unemployable. So they came to us for, 12 came for 6 months, and then another 12 came for another 6 months. and we taught them how to function properly in a work environment. And the coolest thing was, these were kids that would never turn up on time, and they're a little bit naughty, but their jobs were, you know, taking the monkeys for a walk, or helping with a feral kitten that's come in, or, you know, grooming the pigs, shampooing the horses, whatever. So they all started turning up, and each and every one of them, except for 3, went on to get full-time employment after they left us. So it was a really successful mission. But it also, for me, it started giving us real reputation. We were starting to work with government agencies. And I think that's one thing I would say. If you do have a sanctuary and you don't know how to bring in an income, and you don't necessarily want to grow to epic proportions, because who would? It's horrible out there. One thing you could do is look at engaging with those government agencies or even the local schools, and start educating people and bringing them in. And you can actually find an income that way. So you're not making money off the animals, you're actually making money allowing the animals to help you teach people. It can be very special. And I think for me, with the Igala, which was the equine assisted growth and learning, and bringing these youth in, it was a very good way to get by in the beginning. I did a little bit of locum veterinary nursing as well, because I'm a vet nurse by trade. But basically, I think one thing that I noticed that goes really wrong is when people try to use the animals for their income. You see petting zoos, and you see animals put on exhibit and put in situations where, I mean, this is coming from me who worked in movies for 10 years, but there's a point where you just got to not do that. The animals need to be with you because they've found somewhere safe. And so I think using them for profit is never okay. And I don't think it's any of our intention. But if anyone wants to talk more around what sort of programs are available for providing an income, I've probably seen quite a few around. I could probably help. Now, what else am I doing? So when we go on our Facebook page, it's been for the last 13 years, it's been our main source of income. It probably attracts more than $1 million a year. We guard it. It's really only Claire and I, and actually Sophie now, post on it. And we always just tell the truth. We start conversations. We're always open and honest. Even when we stuff up, we're open and honest about it. We don't generally moderate because we just don't jolly well have time. We probably should. It's probably more responsible to. But one thing we do is we don't block people. We let them say what they need to say, because otherwise it's not an open conversation. We do find, though, if anyone's mean, our community of 81,000 tend to jump on them. So it tends to get, it tends to be that we don't have to stand up for ourselves. Our community know us and understand us, and they trust us. Trust is huge right through this whole thing, I think. So anyway, I think since COVID, that income that we've been getting from our Facebook page, I think a lot of it, to be fair, is dispersing. Like, a lot of you guys will be doing amazing work, so money that may have come our way is probably going your way. And actually that's probably fair, because I'd say money that probably went SPCA's way has probably come our way. The point is, it doesn't matter where it goes as long as it's helping animals at the other end of it. So I don't think you should be argy-bargy around money, but the reality is we all need to find a way to find it. We're losing that traction through Facebook, so we're having to pivot. So now what we're trying to do is perhaps look at ways like, for instance, I've just actually got a new board and we're looking into it now, but we're looking at building the retail empire of op shopping, or we've got 3 op shops now and they're doing quite well. So it's about just finding ways to survive. And it's quite stressful, because when your whole day is stressful animal rescues, and then you come home to, how do I think I have to find usually around $90,000 to $100,000 a month to keep us ticking. And it's a lot, and it is stressful, but we do it every month. Sometimes we chip backwards. This month, I think We went 8,000 overdraft, and now we're 2,000 ahead, but we're never as rich as everyone thinks we are. It's just we work really, really hard and we don't stop. What else can I tell you? These are the sorts of services we provide. So sheltering and 24-hour care. So we are available 24 hours a day. I do the after hours, so I get the calls. We get a lot of calls from the police, which is kind of cool that they know they can ring us. We do compassionate veterinary services. We did buy a veterinary clinic, and it was cool. It was a good project and it was good exercise, but it was very hard to sustain a healthy, normal community, and also all of the homeless animals and the people who struggled to find care. So we found it was almost doing two jobs. So we've actually sold that clinic, and that money is going to us building a new clinic on our new site. And our aim is to perhaps start a referral centre where people can send compassionate cases. So if you owned a vet clinic and people can't afford to pay for their dog's leg to be pinned, you would refer that person on to us, and we would do that pinning, but then we would send that client back to you. We don't want the clients, we just want to get that job done so that animal is okay. And what else do we do? We agitate and advocate. We do that really well. So we spend a lot of time just seeing things that we don't think are right, and then just going, oi, that's not right. And to be fair, that's about as fancy as we get, and it works. So I think it's really important to have good instincts in this industry and to speak your mind. We also get the big jobs done. And sadly, there have been a lot of them. So this is the sheltering and 24-hour care, and who wouldn't want to do this? Once again, it's such a romantic thing, right? It looks so dreamy and everything you'd ever want to do in your life. But the fact is, behind that is a huge machine, and it is hard work. And, you know, Claire always says in winter, you know, the volunteers drop off. It's not so much fun walking in the rain and being in the mud and being in the cold, and it can be really depressing and get you quite down. And like right now, the homes aren't coming available either. We used to be able to just get the dogs in and get them out, except for the special needs ones. And now even the most adorable, like those huntaway puppies, nobody's coming to see them. So it's pretty harsh and stressful. The phone calls come in every day. They don't stop ever. One thing I think is really important is we never say no. If we can't, like lately, it's getting harder to say yes. So what we do is we'll stay on the phone with people. We'll give them heaps of ideas and suggestions. We'll guide them. We'll help them. We'll give them advice. We'll post a community rehome for them, but we won't just say, nah, sorry, not interested, goodbye. Because I hate it when it happens to me, even if it's just, you know, a regular phone call of regular business. People need to put the effort in, and we always make sure we do. But we are definitely reaching out to more of you now, which is really cool, because we never used to. We used to be a little bit arrogant and go, oh no, you know, we can do this. We don't need help. But we do need help now. So we reach out to a lot of you guys, and it's I know you guys reach out to us too, and I think that's really healthy. So compassionate veterinary services, that's my bag of chips. I really love rehabilitation. I just thrive on it. My team love it too. We work with wildlife as well as companion animals, as well as horses, and really any animal that needs care. But it's just so satisfying watching them turn around, especially when you know no one else was going to try. We particularly love the mange cases. They're incredibly satisfying. If anybody needs any help or advice on any of these sorts of cases, is actually a lot easier than you would think. And then of course we go out into the community. So this is our caravan that we bought. We went up north to visit someone who was having trouble with some foster puppies. She wasn't fostering through us, she was fostering through another organization. And I think there'd been a misunderstanding, and she'd ended up with 9 more puppies than she thought she could handle. So we went up to help her, and when we got there, the puppies weren't looking great. Realized that we might be dealing with parvo, and then what do you do except buy a caravan? So we bought the caravan, popped the puppies in there, and drove them back down to Wellington and continued to care for them in the caravan. We also go into the communities and help. So if it's not a particularly severe case, we will treat in the field. If it is a severe case, then we'll bring them in and we'll triage them at my house, usually in isolation. But this is what the caravan looked like. And now we've surpassed the parvo caravan phase of the caravan, and we've gone into the surgical phase of the caravan, which is very exciting. So we do a lot in here today. They did patella surgeries and x-rays. We've got a portable x-ray as well. And then we don't just do rats, we just, whatever animal needs it, they're in there. We're really lucky. We've got Alistair, who used to have Crofton Downs vets. He's a bit of a whiz, and Gina. We've got some, pretty epic vets in our arsenal, which is great. So agitate and advocate. So a lot of you followed the Tamaranui 25. That's sort of work that we do. It's really just good moral compass stuff. It's really just about, that's not okay. If we don't stand up for this, if we don't, use our voice for them, then what's going to happen? So we just stand firm. And we did the same thing for the party pill testing. These are some of the beagles we actually rehabilitated and rescued. So what we did is they wanted to test animals on party pills on animals, and it just seemed like a no-brainer. The other agencies had all given up, and we just thought, but no, how could you? That's a party pill. That's just dumb. You don't want to, that shouldn't be in the community, let alone tested on vulnerable animals. So we hollered and yelled, got meetings with government, hollered and yelled some more. And then we said, hey, New Zealand, this is not okay. And I tell you what, everybody came. Like, it was epic. We actually had these marches. The one in Auckland might have even possibly been bigger. We facilitated marches all over New Zealand. We were clueless. We'd never done anything like it before, but the cause, there was just no sense in what they were proposing to do. So we basically led the largest animal welfare march in New Zealand's history, and we're really proud of it because the law got changed and they do not test party pills on animals. So that's kind of epic and cool. And then this one over here, that was the gas chamber at Wanganui. Again, it was just about people just catching up with what's not okay anymore. So we went and sat down with Wanganui City Council and said, you know what's your problem? And their problem was they didn't have a relationship with a vet who would euthanize humanely for them by injection. And they didn't have a costing structure, and they didn't have anywhere to do the euthanizing. And although, euthanizing is not cool and not something in this situation, something that we'd want to really be a part of, the gas chamber was worse. So we sat down and we hooked them up with a vet, we hooked them up with a protocol and helped them develop a space. And now those animals, well, that's a bit grim, isn't it? But anyway, those animals, at least they have a bit more respect and a bit more comfort. Although, to be fair, having a home would have been a better option. We did go on to help, and I know a lot of you will still dive into the pounds and help. In the beginning, we did a lot of pound work because it was kind of cool. They'd already done the temperament tests, and it meant that when animals came to us, they'd already kind of been through phase 1, and we felt less stitched up with an animal that we perhaps couldn't cope with. We generally can cope with most of them, but sometimes there'll be an animal that's just a little bit, something's not quite right. It's just been through so much, it's quite aggressive. So the pounds just protect you from those ones coming in sometimes. But now we do work with pounds. In fact, we have a great relationship with them all, but we don't take in the volume. I think a lot of you guys are doing it, which is great. And B, we seem to be going direct to the source. We're just constantly going into homes and getting animals out. I just wanted to tell you the story very, very quickly of Sumo. He was a chain dog. We couldn't get anyone to listen. We couldn't get him off the chain. he was clearly not well. He was only 8 months old. He was all bow-legged and wobbly. We managed to talk the owners into letting us take him to the vet because they thought, yay, free vet care. Because we were saying, your dog doesn't look well. Do you think we could just take it to the vet and then we'll provide you what you need? So that was kind of our little trick of getting the dog off the chain into Massey. Turns out he had an autoimmune disease and his joints were pretty stuffed and he was declining. Again, he was only 8 months old. He was chained in the snow with no shelter. The authorities just gave the family a kennel. That's how they dealt with that. Instead of taking him away or putting him in a new situation, they just gave the people a plastic kennel for him. So he stayed like that. I think it was another 6 months or so of us. I actually slept on the doorstep of the SPCA with the vet note saying, this dog is ill, please come and help us uplift him. And in the end, I didn't get anywhere. And in the end, I got a phone call from the owner saying, do you still want the dog? And I went, yeah. And he said, you still give me $500 because I tried that, as you do. And I went, yeah, sure, I'll give you $500. I'll come and get him now. And I whizzed on up to Wanganui. When I got there, he was collapsed. So we got him to a vet and he had sort of a whole lot of pain relief and everything. He lived with Jim and I and our animals for probably another month or so, but then we couldn't control the pain. He went to heaven. But for that month, honestly, he had so much fun and he couldn't move a lot, but he really did enjoy, I think he really did enjoy the sunshine and the freedom. There was no chain. There was a lot of love. But the one thing that sticks with me with this, and something I'd love us to all continue working on, is when I talked to Massey and I said to them, you know what, can't you actually just say something? A dog in that sort of pain shouldn't be on a chain. The response I got from the vet was, there's no science to say that living on a chain would exacerbate his pain. So we're not prepared to say that. So our chance of getting Sumo off that chain to me pivoted around a statement from a vet, but the vet wasn't prepared to give it because she didn't know if there was any science around relating between joint pain and chaining, and if you've got an autoimmune disease causing the joint pain, if chaining would exacerbate that. So that's the stuff in all the work we do that I don't get and doesn't sit well with me. It isn't okay. And I think we all need to work past all that sort of bullshit and start just thinking, hey, that animal's in pain, we need to sort it out. So anyway, he passed away. This is a photo, but it's quite an emotional photo. This is us letting him go. So I just turned it into a sketch instead. But he was loved. He was so loved. Rightio. So this is the bulk loads. We get so many. It's crazy. Like bulk loads across the country every day of the week. So this was a rabbit. Well, sometimes we look for trouble. This was a rabbit farm and we bought it, which was probably a bit silly, but look at those lives. And I actually still have quite a few of those rabbits bopping around my backyard. We came in and we grabbed them and then we processed them through the night. I think Delwyn, I saw you on this. Delwyn's in the photo, I think that's her face. But those animals were in a mess. It was disgusting. Again, I don't think there are issues around there not being a code of welfare for rabbits. And it's not okay. So that's more work that I think we should all jump in and do. I know Marie at the SPCA is working really hard on this, or has been, or is trying. And that's the thing, we all need to keep trying and pushing. And my problem is I'm so in the trenches every day, I find it very hard to keep up with all this extra stuff, but it is important if we can to keep on it. It's not good enough. But bulk loads, we get so many. I think one of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about, in fact, maybe before I talk to you about this, did you want me to just see if there are any questions so far? I have been talking a lot.
happy to give you a break there, Carolyn.
You were great.
Yeah, well, actually, funnily enough, I have a question for you, and we might have to just rewind a little bit to sort of the top of your talk. You mentioned right at the start about the some of the phone calls you get from other welfare people, and they're in a bit of a state and sort of struggling. Can you tell me what the common theme is of how those people have ended up in the situation where they're feeling completely overwhelmed?
I think there's a sense of hopelessness because and I guess it comes back to how emotional I was about sumo. You see these animals in these situations every jolly day. You get more phone calls, more photos, more desperate pleas. And the thing is, people get really angry with you because, like, if someone, like the lovely old lady who found sumo, she was very kind to me. She could see I was trying, but in a lot of cases, people get angry, like, why aren't you just taking it? And then, to be fair, in some cases, you find a way. We don't go around stealing dogs, but sometimes someone will uplift a dog and we'll do a 7-day hold and it doesn't find its way back. So there are ways sometimes of getting them out, but not always. And they're in these just awful situations. And then when you do get them, just the money involved in helping them and getting them pain-free can be really, for us, like I say, I mean, our vet bills easily just on a good month would be $20,000. We got the vet team thinking that would help that, but no, we're just doing more now. So we're still like way up there. And I know some of you, I think, have had like huge vet bills, and it's just what we're doing. It's not, there's so much joy in our hearts for these animals, but there's no joy in, and I guess there's no peace. It just keeps on keeping on, and you may have a small win, and then you'll have heaps of losses, and then another win, and then some more losses. And on your mental health, it's draining, it's tiring, it's 24/7. Everybody wants you. You have to be everything for everyone. You have to get out of your jammies every night and go dashing into the night to pick up a hedgehog, because if you don't, who will? So it's a big drain, and it's a big ask. And I think if you don't have the support, from the ground up, I built support around, it's not me, it's a we, and it's been like that for a very long time. And if it weren't like that, I don't know. It's just too bad. That was long, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It actually leads into my other question that I had for you, which was, you talked about your shelter volunteers maybe dwindling in wintertime and people finding it a bit tough to keep going. So what is it that you do for your staff or volunteers to keep them motivated and up?
It's just their utter love and drive. To be fair, I don't think we do enough. So the ones that we've identified, there's sort of two different types of volunteers, and there's no disrespect to either type, but there are two types. There are the people who are absolutely driven for the animals, and rain or shine, they will be there. And then you get the people who come to a shelter because it makes them feel good, and they like to cuddle or they like to be around. So you get a bad rainy day or a funny smell, and they're not quite as invested. And it's really interesting when volunteers arrive, we straight away identify what we're going to get, and we can I roster around it a little bit. Like, there are the ones that are like ride or die, and then the other ones that they don't last long. They're there because they just think this might make them feel good for a wee while, and then they float off. But what we do for our volunteers over winter is just look incredibly desperate. But obviously we care about them, tell them they're wonderful. Delwyn's helping me set up a little newsletter so that we can perhaps keep more communications going with them, because sometimes you get so busy and so stressed you forget to tell them the little details of the day that give us joy. We need to pass that stuff on. But
Very nice, thank you. if anyone else has any questions, please do just keep putting them in the chat. Carolyn, how are you looking for time?
Oh, I've got no idea. No, well, I'll chug along. How much
Okay.
time have I got?
Well, we didn't really put a closing time on, so hopefully everyone's okay.
Yeah, no, I shouldn't be too bad. What I wanted to do is, there's a real problem that I have identified of late, and it's really truly understanding. Social media is great because obviously we're all getting used to the idea that we're connecting together. We're all desperate. We all need each other. But I guess what I wanted to identify is that it's like, I guess it's like online dating or blind dating. Just because you talk to someone on social media and you may talk to them every day and that you might have struck up an online friendship with them, doesn't mean they're good at what they do. It doesn't mean that, when they take a photo and a selfie, that's actually the real picture of what's going on their property or with their animals. And this, I just wanted to give this as an example. This is the Christchurch cow rescue we did. Cost us about $140,000 to fix this, and we still haven't fixed it because apparently it's just starting up again. So that's devastating, heartbreaking, and every other emotion you can think of. But this person was someone young who was very passionate about cows and started a cow rescue. And anyway, I used to see the posts on Facebook, and it was always smiling selfie with a cow and all very delightful. But when you zoom out, what was happening is these animals were being starved. So there were over 180 cows on I think about 8 different properties around Canterbury. And there was some hidden away, and there was some also in foster care. And the fosterers were getting no support. So those animals weren't doing great either. And the fosterers weren't getting any joy when they were trying to reach out for help. So literally all these cows were just starving, and just honestly, I can't tell you, it would be one of the most distressing things I've ever seen. I walked into that scenario thinking I was going to help that person because I felt that person perhaps was getting a hard ride from MPI. When I arrived, it was like, oh, I'm on the wrong team. And so I stayed, but I moved my baggage out of the house, parked somewhere else, and then it was like, got to get these cows under control. So I was team cow all the way. But they were in, like, so this one here, this is Sweetie. This is what she looked like. It was like, she's not even the worst, but putting her in a regular home with people who provided for her didn't take long to turn her around. Some of the cows died, but most of them, they weren't even desexed, a lot of them. So we're talking not just rescuing and starving, then going on to breed, and then no TB testing, no microbovis, whatever the word is, when you need to know their history and everything. And there was no vaccinations, no drenching, the horns everywhere. They were all damaging each other because they were so hungry. They were barging around with horns, testicles everywhere. The whole thing there was inbreeding. It was just awful. But that was a bit of a rant. But what I wanted to say is, when so many people were donating, and so many people probably still on some level think that perhaps the selfie was the real picture and that this is too unbelievable. But we just got to be really careful. What's happening is it works both ways. I wanted to show you this too. This is at my place. This is one corner of my place. Those sheep, by the way, aren't behind a wire. They just happen to be standing there. But I had a horrible neighbor once. This is years and years ago. And she enlisted neighbours at war to whinge that there was an animal sanctuary next to her. And so the neighbours at war crew came and they filmed that mud, and that mud was in the mud was on the telly as though, look at this disgusting sanctuary. Well, I don't have my zoom out, but the zoom out, you can see the grass was like 13 acres of grass with one corner of mud, where we'd had to separate with a shelter. We'd had to separate a pig that had just come in and was quarantined. So he had huckled or puckled it up, but he'd long gone, and that was all regenerating. But my point is that just because you see something, it doesn't mean it's so. What I do and what I suggest you all do is go and visit people, see it for yourself. Check out the facilities, check out the quality of care. Hygiene is so, so important. It needs to be done right or not at all. Don't engage with people if you don't know them. Even if you think you know them, don't engage if you don't go to their homes and see it for yourself. Don't just take it on face value that everything is okay. Do you know, this is me. This isn't I know there's no I in team, but I just snapped my Google map. So this is my Google Mappy thing for the last 3 years. Most of these dots are me going to support or rescue from another rescue, or from pretty much, to be fair, I'm either dropping food off, picking an animal up, or moving animals across the country because somebody's not quite pulled off what they thought they could do. And it's killing me, I must say. But I mean, like, even Australia, it was going over and problem solving. They didn't know how to get vets in. So we went over and we built vet triages, and so that we could get the vets in. So we whizzed around Australia. But the same thing in New Zealand, it's constantly backward and forwarding, problem solving. And it's problem solving because people aren't doing their due diligence. But having said that, I am always happy to help, but it's just very tiring. But do call if you need me or us. Right. So I kind of started pondering, why do people rescue animals? And I think the thing is, and it'd be really interesting for you all to kind of work out what category you fit in. But I think for a lot of us, and this is really why I started, because I saw such a desperate need. I couldn't stand just standing by. And the system was actually really broken. And to be fair, the system is still very, very broken. So again, we've got a lot of work to do. And then I've got this terrible attitude of, if we don't, who will? And so I say this to my team almost every day. Like, they'll say, blah, 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 there's all this going on and we're really stretched. What do you think? And it's like, but if we don't, who will? And that definitely is something I'm getting better at sharing with you guys now, because I know that there are other good agencies out there and other good. So it is good. We're getting better at it, but it's definitely probably been a real motivator for me. And then you've got the people who want to live the dream. You have no idea how many phone calls I get of people who say to me, hi, I really want to start a sanctuary. How do you make your money? And that's the first thing they ask. And I think it's wonderful if you want to keep animals and care for them, but don't ever expect you're going to make money off them. That's not okay. So I think that I talked to you about, there are ways you can incorporate an income with caring for animals, though. So there are ways around it. And then there's hoarding. And I don't know, with that cow situation, if you call that hoarding. I don't know. People often think of a hoarder as a little old lady who doesn't mean to. But we're seeing a lot of hoarders who are actually going into like puppy milling or breeding inappropriately, and they're actually making money off it and turning it into big business. And we're dealing with that more and more and more across New Zealand, and that's quite scary too. And I couldn't see what the other tile said. Building relationships is really key. So one thing I advise you all is start getting to know your local doc people. When we turned up at Toa, we ended up staying for 3 weeks and providing full veterinary support for him. It took a lot for them to go, hang on, who are they? Why are they here? But we kind of barged in, as you do. But we ended up being really important, and we didn't save him, but we gave it a good crack, and we ended up working really tightly with the local, the Fens guys were there, Doc were there, whale rescue were there. There were just some good people, and it was great networking. We now go, we'd always done this. We turn up at seals and put cordons around them, because again, if we don't, who will? But they're starting to recognize our name, and when we come, they don't look so confused now. So you kind of as you get those relationships, you become more familiar to them. They start trusting your work and understanding who you are. So that's kind of a good way of sneaking in. And then this one, there's Delwyn. So Delwyn's Cats Protection League, but for the Nelson fires, I pinched her to run our cattery there because it's really important to have people who have the skills around you. And I know how she works. So she's not just a Facebook friend. But anyway, my thing here is that this was an MPI. This is Nelson Fires. We're all sitting around strategizing, but we were there for MPI with Federated Farmers, with all of them really, civil defence. Anyway, the thing is, get to know everybody and become just familiar with them, and make yourselves make it so that you are, when you walk in the door, they go, oh, it's you. I know what you do and I trust you. And I think that's just really, really, really important. We ended up for the Nelson fires doing temporary shelter for 957 animals, and we weren't invited. We just popped on in and boom, away it went. Now we've been to, I think it's like 14 responses. So I would love to do a talk at some point around community resilience and sheltering and self-evacuating and stuff too, because I think that's happening a lot now. That's a different subject. So we say when animals are at risk, HUHA calls communities to action, and together we save lives. And I think that's a really huge thing, and I think that's part of our success. We don't just barge along as HUHA, we try and get the whole community involved. And so when we're in town, we get all the locals to come in and pitch in, and it's kind of a lovely thing. People feel valued and they feel part of it, but it's not just in physical presence, it's also on social media. If we post an animal that needs a home, they share it. If an animal's stolen here, then someone at the other end of the country might recognize that animal and we can connect them. These things are happening all the time. Transport down the country. It's just lovely having a community. And with that community, that Facebook community or that present community, together we are seriously saving lives. And now I think with what Companion Animals New Zealand are doing is us as rescuers, we're all becoming a community. And some of us have known each other for years and some of us are really new, but I completely encourage, they want you to, put your stats. And I know some people feel a little paranoid about, everyone's know my business. It's not about that. It's about us all understanding the problem so that we can come together and do something about it. So jump on and get into that, because that is huge and we need everybody to jump in. There's a pitch for you, David.
Thank you.
But it's true. So when animals are at risk, HUHA calls communities and to action, and together we save lives. Our core values, so these are things we say every day. Like, I drive people mad with these. Every animal matters. It doesn't matter whether it's a possum or whether it's a whatever else it is. We're all over it, and that's really important to us. We can and we will. We say that a lot as well, because you sit there and you suddenly feel a moment of doubt or doom, and you just go, you know what, we can and we will, bloody hell, and off we go. So get amongst it. Same thing, we've always got our gumboots on. Leave it better than we found it. That's really important to me. When we go into a situation, we don't just take the animal out. Like, for instance, there's a litter of puppies. You don't just uplift the litter of puppies. You make sure that bitch is de-sexed too. Or better still, if you can, get your hands on her as well. But you always leave it better than you found it. If there's a lack of education causing a situation, make sure that education is in place. You don't just dart and run with whatever it is. We don't let human issues affect outcomes. So you can't be tired. You can't be having a bad day. If an animal needs your help, you've always got to be ready, and you always got to be ready to step up. So that's really important to us. And then we always do this too. And I think this is one that is really important. I'm not sure that everyone able to do this, but if you can, it's huge. And that's once a HUHA animal, always a HUHA animal. We get a lot of phone calls from people who have adopted from other rescues, and they ring back to say, you know what, this isn't working out. I think last week it was they'd only had the animal 3 months. Sometimes they've had the animal for several years, and they'll ring us and they'll say, well, we rang them, but they don't want the animal back. We kind of always jump on the ones that we've rehomed because they're already our family. We know that animal's history. If we've done something wrong, or if something's gone wrong, we want to know what that is. And we always say to the people, look, you've been part of that animal's journey. You've given us more information. We understand where either we got it wrong, or I'm sorry that your life changed and it's gone wrong. But it helps us understand what we need to do to get it right. So when an animal comes back, we don't look at it as a dud or broken, or, you know what, that's too hard basket. It's been in a home. You get so much more information than you would have, or than you knew the first time around you rehomed it. So we always take them back. And we would hope that if anybody rang any of you and said, hey, I've got a dog from HUHA, but I can't be asked ringing them, please, or a cat or a cow or a pig or a turkey, please always tell them, please ring us, or you guys can ring us, because we would be mortified. A lot of these animals we've invested so much love and time in, and it would be devastating to think that they went off the radar and we'd lose touch with them. Every animal that we rehome goes with a contract that if anything does go wrong in their life, in the owner's life, that animal has to come back to us. It can't be on-sold or given away. It has to come back. And that's not being a control freak. That's promising that animal protection for the rest of its life with a little bit of control freak. So these are our strategic priorities moving forward. So we're building a national hub where animals and people can connect. It's really important that people are part of that equation, because it's people who we need to start getting it right. We want to develop and lead a world-class emergency response team for New Zealand. We're already really proud of our team, but we just need to grow and develop some more. It's a new space for us, but we're definitely all in. We want to build infrastructure to ensure HUHA is operationally safe and sustainable. So health and safety is huge. For the animals, it's hygiene as well as safety. For the team, it's not just health and safety as far as this is, don't stand under a horse float ramp when you undo the catches, not just that sort of health and safety, but it's also your mental health and safety. And I think there are lots of things being put in place. We've got a new lady on our board who health and safety is what she does. She's a guru at it. So if any of you have any questions around that, feel free to reach out, because I know she has amazing packages that she's getting together for us that we could pass on and share that information. It's just too important to not identify that people can hurt in lots of different ways, not just from injury. But you do need to do your reporting and your proper due process around your protocols and your procedures. You can't get away without them. You need them, especially in this day and age. So we want to provide a referral base for compassionate veterinary care. So when we've built our new clinic, we will be putting a letter out to everyone, including you guys, saying we don't want these people as clients forever, but we will do these surgeries, or give this treatment. So the referral idea is that a vet can take a client in, realize they're not going to pay, and go, well, I don't need that. And so they can refer their animal over to us. We'll do that surgery or that treatment, but then that animal does go back to that vet. So the owner's responsibility is they have to be signed up with a vet, and they have to get their aftercare, the latter aftercare with a vet. But for that particular treatment and the immediate aftercare, the animal can come to us, but only for that particular situation, because we don't have time to be in the business of looking after clients. Oh, and then we need to grow our ethical retail movement so that we can get a sustainable income, and that's quite desperate. So we're working on that at the moment. So this is actually an older photo. We've done a lot more. Everything's got a roof and there's some solar now. This is our new hub. It's 157 acres. It'll be a hub for animals to come and be rehabilitated, for people to come. And we say people can heal with the animals while the animals are healing. There's walking tracks. It's really stunning. It's an old forest block, so it was pretty shitty when we got it. It only cost us $450,000 for the land, but we're currently putting in a driveway that's costing $800,000. So it's all evening out now. But it's going to be worth it, because we also want it to be somewhere where people can evacuate during, like, you can see if a tsunami came in, that's a good safe place to be. It's up high. So we're really proud of this. And this is something we want to share with all of you. We'll have little meeting rooms just made out of these funny little cabins, and we'll have little conference rooms and stuff. So, I mean, if you ever want to get away and just come and sit on a hill and enjoy the view, you're all welcome anytime. Jim and I are getting old, not that old, but nearly. And we're starting to think about what happens when we retire. I don't want this to be about us. This is about New Zealand's community of animal carers. So this is us building something so that we can go, right, okay, everybody, you've got it. But we will put in place a bit of a HUHA protocol around the things that are non-negotiable for us up there. So it might be a bit vegan up there, but it'll be good. So there's other sorts of, the dog cabins are going to have dog runs coming off the cabins as well. This is going to be the vet clinic. These things, we've managed to get a grant from lotteries, $2.2 million. So it's paying for the buildings, but it's COVID, everything's run over time and everything's heaps more expensive. So we're still going to have to do one more funding round, I think, to pull it off completely. But this is the dog area here, education hall for visiting kids, also evacuation hall if there's a disaster, the veterinary clinic, and then just heaps of land for, we call that the herbivore hut. The hut, so that's where all your bunnies and stuff can go. But anyway, it's just going to be for everybody and everything, really. Just a lovely place, safe place. That's again an oldish photo. We've come a long way since then, but it's just taken, we've had it 4 years, and it's taken 4 years of chipping away at it. So I forgot I had my flashy things. I'm happy to stop here if you want to, but I just had some ideas around the types of things that we've done, how HUHA has become HUHA. So I'll just really quickly go through these, but if we are running short on time, we can do questions instead. What do you want to do, David? Do you want me to?
Got a couple of questions, but you probably got another couple of minutes.
Oh, good stuff. All right. Okay. So how? Decades of building trust. Like, I cannot tell you how much trust, how important trust is. It's huge. Strategic growth. Everything we do, we really think it through. There's a lot of just having to really, really think. You just really have to think it through. Don't just go and think, hey, I'm going to rescue 32 ostriches and then not have any facilities to put them in. You got to, as you grow, you need to have everything in place, because you're actually holding the babies when you get them in. You need to make sure they're safe, and you need to make sure that your staff are safe, that your volunteers are safe, and that people in the community walking down the street are safe. There's a lot to consider. It's incredibly hard work, but through the building trust, you basically going for respect in the industry. I think that's really important. I rang up MPI the other day and said, we're not coping. And so now we're all having this really big meeting, which we will include you all in soon. I just wanted to do the first round so I could get off my chest what I wanted to say. And then I thought we could all perhaps pitch our voices in. But it's good to have the respect enough for agencies to listen when you call, and it takes a long time to get to that point, I think. A reputation for problem solving. I think that's probably our biggest strength, to be honest. And being honest and reliable, I think that's huge. You've just got to be upfront, and you've got to be honest with everything and how you're doing and what you need, and just be honest to yourself as well. Strategic growth. Find a niche. I think that's really cool. I see people who, like, there's people who are just maybe a duck rescue, but then having said that, we had to rescue a duck rescue, and that took a lot, 2 trips down to Christchurch. But then you get people who maybe just Rottweiler rescue. They're amazing, and they know Rottweilers inside and out, and they're good eggs. So sometimes having a niche means that you can stay in your lane and do it really, really well, as opposed to us. We've kind of spied out all over the show. And although we have been a bit strategic, it is pretty full on. So there's no shame in having a niche and seeing a need, as I did in the beginning with my farm animals, but then it takes over. Consider your direction wisely as you do grow. Make sure you don't just grow because you're passionate, grow because there's room for you to grow. Proof of concept. So that's what we did with the dog shelter. We didn't buy the land straight away. We didn't build straight away. We spent 12 years working out, was this going to work? Is a fostering system better for us? For us, we do like the shelter system. We like to be really in it and hands-on. And we like having that front door for the people coming and going. And also fosterers can be really hard work, and they're amazing. But we just like having all our tools in our own toolbox and having some fosterers to tap into, but we don't have a huge stable of them. I can't see what it says because David's in the way, but I bet it's good. I'll go down to the next one. Was it good? So incredibly hard work, no sleep, no money. So speaking of money, I'm happy to talk to everyone about money. I didn't actually remember to put it in the slides, but I'm happy to go over it. I do get paid now. I've been paid for 3 years, so 18 years no pay, 3 years with pay. We have 17 staff who will get paid and about 80 volunteers. It was weird because when we started paying the staff, the volunteers lost a little bit of love. Not all of them, but some did, which is totally fair. But we're such a big machine now. We need to be professionally run. It's how we cope with such big volume. So for me, I'm on $27 an hour, and I work 80 hours a week. So I work that out on a calculator, and that's like $13.50 an hour. because I only get paid for 40 hours a week. I don't get paid anything past 40. So if you work it out, I'm on about $13.50 an hour. But officially, it's 40 hours at $27 an hour, and I'm the highest paid person at HUHA, aside from the vets who get double me. And a bit more, but so we're not at living wage yet for everyone. We're not far off it though, and that's what we're aiming for. Why, just because you rescue animals, why shouldn't you be looked after and be able to feed your own family and be able to buy your own, petrol or whatever it is you need to do, feed your own animals? So it's not a lot of money, but we try, and everyone's sort of in the 23 to 27 bracket. Work within your means. So I think this is where I go and rescue a lot of rescues. I think it spirals out of control. So seriously, don't let that happen. You'll last a lot longer if you can work within your means. But I'm saying that, and I think we're running at a $20,000 a month loss at the moment. So, but I'm working on it. We'll turn that around. But it is really stressful when you start working outside your means. So to try and focus is good. Always put the animal care first. At the end of the day, if we weren't pulling it off and it's hurting animals, then why are we doing that? And I can't read the last one. I've got Helen Sandcliffe, you're in my way. Hi, Helen. I guess the big thing is, and my final message is, it's hard to be everything for everyone. And I think working together is hugely important, but I also think encouraging community resilience is important. So obviously putting into educating, which is hard, because when you're in your gumboots and you're dirty and you're tired and you're running around after these animals just to get them fed and cared for, where do you have time to do the school talks, and where do you have time to go to the church groups or to the whatever? You just need to find it, because it's that education that's going to get you out of it. And it's working with government as well, which is something we all need to do. My last thing before I shut up is don't be afraid to ring SPCA, MPI, constantly. Just tell them if you're worried about something. I've noticed there's a cycle of, we didn't ring them because they don't care or they don't do anything. And I understand. I've lived through occasions of that as well. In fact, you'll find a lot of the staff members in those organizations probably have frustrations too. But if we don't constantly highlight what's in front of us, then they don't have the information they need to change and grow, because we're all changing and growing. So instead of not ringing, I think it's better to log a call, and then at least there's a history around that animal, that situation, and then it can be debriefed or unpacked or looked into. Don't feel defeated, just keep pushing. And that's basically my HUHA team do. We talk to the SPCA every day. We talk to MPI pretty much every day. We just keep pushing along, and we're polite and we're respectful. Sometimes we're disappointed, and sometimes we get an epic win. And we had an epic win just today. And it's just, there's nothing like it, because it just shows you there is hope and things are starting to change. And I think everyone wants the change, but we've just got to keep pushing at it. So don't be, There we go. All righty, questions.
Fantastic. Thanks, Carolyn. That was amazing. I've got first of all, a comment from Ted, who I think has been helping you out in the Haywoods shelter build. He's suggesting to you that maybe you should consider a YouTube channel to get an even larger audience, which might help further donations for you.
Oh, that's cool.
And Megan's got a couple of questions around DOC. Her first question when you talked about seals was, what are you using for your seal cordons? Because there's some seals up Mangawhai way, and the DOC's policy is just to leave them alone.
Oh, so we're keeping it really simple. So we just use the orange cones, and then we just use orange cones, and then you can get those pulley apart things that go around. So do you know what I mean? They're like long stripy sticks that pull apart. And
with a hoop on each end.
Yeah, little hoop on each end. So we just cordon like that. Sometimes if you haven't got your kit with you, you can just do driftwood cordons, but the orange cones. And then if you get some laminated things to say, you know, what organization you're with, and that, just put a little logo in the corner and say, please be aware there's a seal, dogs on lead, and have one of those much further up the beach at each end. You'll find the seals do move around a little bit though, so generally one of us will stay, or we'll take shifts at staying and keeping an eye. In situations where it's really dangerous further up the beach, we do have temporary fencing, but we wouldn't do that without DOC, and that would have the animal having an exit onto the water, but not wherever it is the danger is. So yeah, just we keep it very, very light, but very bright, I guess.
Okay. Megan's follow-up question was, do you have a DOC license to allow you to rehabilitate natives? How have they reacted to you caring for non-natives such as possums? And Megan's organisation is looking at getting a DOC license, but they're a bit nervous about encroaching on their core business of their rescue, which is cats.
Oh, good on you. Well, do you know, we do not, which we should do. But so I've been I first applied, we had a guy come and look around when we were Pukurataki Animal Sanctuary, 13 years ago. But I probably applied for my first license 20 years ago. Every time I apply, they go, oh, we know you, you're fine. And I know that that's probably not what they're supposed to have said, but that's what's happened. So we've just chugged along happily. We had a license to care for wallabies, but we didn't get a license officially to care for the wildlife, but we have been doing it for years. We've even taken, we had a relationship with the zoo where they'd send all the kiru and tuis our way and the shags as well. So it's something that is on our to-do list. You know, we've just hooked up with WRENZ, WRENNZ. If you are not already, you should go and talk to those people. They are amazing. It's the, Wildlife Rehabbers Network New Zealand. And I've really noticed with them that there's no speciesism, and that they seem to care about, you know, your garden sparrow as much as a falcon. So they're good eggs. They do amazing workshopping. You can learn so much. We've all my team have just done an online carers thing. I mean, I've been caring for birds for years, but you can never stop learning. And also, I'm rusty. So I would go to WRENZ and hook up with them and ask that question to them, because they will be licensed properly, and they do look after non-natives, so they can tell you how they balance that out with DOC. I think they just tell them that's the way it is, and DOC have accepted it because they do such good work.
Very nice. Megan, I don't know if you've got an eye on these notes coming through, Carolyn, but Megan just says, thank you for the wonderful advice. Jay's just got a comment to everyone there, just saying about the SPCA and contacting the SPCA and keeping good notes, document everything, and have your vet notes with you and have meetings with the SPCA. I think this is along the same theme, Carolyn, as you, about, you know, just sort of coordinating things. And I really liked your idea of kind of debriefing about what's worked and what hasn't. Marie has said that she has a hard agree with continuing to contact SPCA, and MPI is someone that has worked at both. She can guarantee the problem is not a lack of caring. There's work to do to fix the system, but we can't fix what we don't know about, which is a great thing. And it actually leads me on to my last sort of question for you, Carolyn, is, and we see this a lot on our social media and just how things sort of develop with various animal issues. I'd just like to know what your comment is about the different approach that shelters have. I know that there's some shelters that don't want to accept relinquished animals. If that animal's got a home, just because their owners or guardian is finding it hard, they don't really want to accept those. And just what's your general comment on the different approach that shelters take, or rescues take, or sanctuaries take about what is being relinquished? Because from my point of view, I can see that there's tension about shelters that say, listen, that animal's in a home. That home might not want that animal for now, but it's their responsibility. And then there's other shelters that go, no, if you want to relinquish that animal, we would rather have it than have it when it's not wanted.
Yeah, I think it's called managed entry, isn't it? So a little bit. So sometimes people pick and choose who's coming in, and you're right. If an animal's got a home and it's safe, then maybe that's not top of the list if you've got a whole, you know, tidal wave coming at you. But interestingly, so we set up, and I've noticed a lot of you are doing this too. We started years ago doing community rehomes for those scenarios where there is an owner involved and the urgency is real to them, but it's not actually, there's no danger. So there is a little bit of time. And so our non-negotiable is the animal has to be desexed. We won't put anything up for adoption or even suggest that it go into a new home unless it's desexed. So we make sure that that owner either comes to us or organises the animal to be desexed if it's not. And that's our non-negotiable. And then we will advertise that. Generally, when we advertise as a community rehome, we have a disclaimer that says, we haven't met this animal, but this is what their owner has to say. And generally, they go into homes pretty quickly. The community, again, we've got the traffic, the 81,000 odd people, and they get shared, and those animals go into homes, and we don't have to take that animal in. It's not taking up a space for an animal that doesn't have a home. Interesting. Yeah, I think, to be fair, if an animal needs to come in, it just needs to come in. And I think if someone's worried enough to call, you should be worried enough to listen. And and then it's just unpicking timelines and capabilities around that. But the community rehome service, it works really well, except for just recently, the world's gone a bit skew-if and animals in general aren't moving as fast, but we're still moving our community rehomes. I'm just expecting that might start getting affected at some point soon.
Thanks for that.
That's all right.
Well, I think that is all the questions. I would like to personally thank you, Carolyn, for your time, and also all the attendees. I'm going to pass over just briefly to Sarah to say the final farewell to everyone. But that was extremely interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, that was really, really interesting talk. Thank you very much, Carolyn. You've obviously had a lot of interesting and challenging experiences and a lot of great stories to tell. I've actually just finished reading your book, which was a great read, and yeah, there's a lot more strings to your bow than we all know about, I think. So if you wouldn't mind just stop sharing your screen, and I will just quickly put up the webinars that are coming up next. There. So as you know, we've got some more webinars lined up for you all. The next one is Dr. Natalie Dale-Gray on cat-friendly interactions. And then we have Rebecca Scotney and Bridie, forgotten her last name, from Massey, and they're going to be talking about compassion, fatigue and mental well-being in shelter environment, which I think will be really useful for a lot of you out there, as it's such a big issue. And then finally, we've got Jess Beer talking about dog behaviour and handling in the shelter environment. So please do register if you want to attend these, and then we are able to get the links out to you. So that's all for now, for tonight. Once again, thank you so much, Carolyn. I'm sure people will have a lot of questions for you, and no doubt you will be able to answer those in your spare time. But yeah, thanks again for your wonderful insights and a really interesting talk. Really appreciate your time.
Yay, thank you for having me. And thanks to everyone who sat through it.